Alright guys, so today I'm going to be showing you how to start up those old snowmobiles that have been sitting around for years and you want to get them started for the first time after they've been sitting. Here's a few just tips and tricks to get them started easier and to diagnose if there's any problems that are causing it not to start. So first things first guys, I want you guys to do a spark check. If you haven't seen the Polaris Colt video, I did do a spark check in that video. If you guys want to see me how to do that on an older style, I would always recommend putting an inline spark checker or at least grounding your spark plug to something because you don't want that secondary voltage to spike and hurt something. And I also don't recommend hanging onto the spark plug either because that kind of gets a little ticklish too. So always make sure you have spark after it's been sitting. You never know. Don't ever take anybody's word for it if it has spark. I always double check and make sure it does have spark because you're going to start pulling all day and you're going to have no spark. So first things first, get that spark checked, make sure it's good. Look for a nice blue color, would be nice. You can almost hear the spark sometimes. It kind of just zaps back and forth. You can almost hear it. So next thing I would do, check to make sure there's fuel in the tank. And not just any fuel, I want to have good fuel in the tank. I don't want to see any nasty color. If it smells even the slightest bit bad, guys, change it. Get rid of it, drain it out, put fresh, premium non-ethanol fuel if you can. That's always the best. Get some non-ethanol fuel and you should be good to go. If it requires premix, please premix it. And if it doesn't, obviously make sure there's oil injection oil in the bottle. So get some fresh gas. Always start with fresh gas. And maybe even a good idea sometimes to take the lines off and blow in the gas tank and try to push the old fuel out of the lines. Just because it's probably sitting in the carbs and in the lines, so it's going to take a little while for that fresh fuel to get there. And that kind of leads me into my next thing about pressurizing the gas tank. Once they've been sitting for a long time, sometimes the lines dry out and there's actually no fuel in the lines. And you got to kind of blow some air in the tank and it kind of forces fuel out in the main fuel line and then kind of fills up these lines that go to the carburetor here. And there's a lot of different, this is a really old style, guys. Very similar on newer stuff. It's just going to have a one fuel line for each carburetor. If you have one carburetor, obviously just one fuel line, but it's nice to have clear lines because then you can kind of see fuel as well. And if you guys feel your lines and they're like plastic, you should probably change them as well. Don't want to have those plastic feeling lines. You want to have some nice pliable rubber. It's always a good idea to change them too before you start messing around, just to get it done and out of the way. These are really hard, so I should probably replace these. But we'll see if we get to that eventually. But pressurize the gas tank. If you don't feel comfortable blowing into it, obviously don't huff the gas fumes, please. Do not do that. Blow air into it. Do not suck air from the tank, please. But if you don't feel comfortable with your mouth on it, just put a little bit of air pressure behind it. Don't go crazy on the air pressure. You know, maybe 10 psi, however much you can blow. I think that's like 10 psi, maybe 20. But don't put any crazy amount of pressure. Just take an air gun and put some air to it. Try to push some of the fuel out. And if you have a newer style with a impulse line coming from the engine on the fuel pump, and you can take the lines off your carburetor and actually pull it over, pull the engine over. You can actually just hit the kill switch or something and just pull it over, and you should actually see fuel dribble out of the lines. That tells you your fuel pump is working, because with enough pressure that you get from pulling it over, that should be enough to kind of pulse the pump, and then that kind of spits out fuel from each of the fuel lines. So that's a quick check to see if your fuel pump is actually doing something. If it's not doing that, don't panic. It might start doing that as it's running. Maybe the diaphragms are dry or something. But after you get that established and you got fuel kind of going in the lines, you got your spark checked out, and you get your choke on, you're pulling it, it's not starting. What I would do is I would take some pre-mixed fuel, some with oil. I'll get a bottle here real quick. If you guys can see, but here's some. It's got like blue color. There's some oil mixed in with this. Just a generic like Windex bottle, and I would just spray it right into the opening of the carburetors. If you have an air box, you could probably take the air box off anyways because you want to get at stuff. But if you can, try to squirt some in there. And if it fires up and dies, just have somebody, maybe have an extra person with you, try to keep it running by spraying the premixed gas into the carburetor as you're trying to pump the throttle. Because that's going to start pumping that fuel pump, and it's going to start drawing fuel into the lines and into the bowl of the carb, and then trying to pull it up in the engine. and eventually it should keep running on its own. If it doesn't start when you put fuel into the carburetor, you're trying to squirt it and it still doesn't start, I would take the spark plugs right out, put a little bit of premix gas right down the spark plug hole, quickly screw it in, and then take your socket, tighten up the spark plugs, and see if it pops off that way. And you should be good to go after that. But sometimes they do require carb cleanings, and you'll try to keep squirting and it just won't pull fuel in, it won't run. It'll only run if you keep fuel spraying in it. That's kind of telling you that either your pilot jet's clogged, most likely pilot jet, or your float's got some particulate in it and it's not letting as much fuel in, or any of the combinations of dirty varnish fuel in the float bowl. That could be definitely causing you some problems. So if you guys want me to do a video on carb cleaning, snowmobile carburetors, I can do a really good job on that for you. But this video is just kind of tips and tricks on how to get these old snowmobiles that have been sitting running, because I do it quite often, and this is kind of the procedure that I use when we're going through these snowmobiles when I get them. So hopefully that kind of helps some of you if you guys were kind of wondering what to do when you have an old snowmobile that's been sitting. That's kind of the protocol that I follow, and it's been working really well. Some things I'll do differently than others, but that's basically what I do. I always get fresh fuel, I get spark, pressurize the gas tank usually. I always spray gas into it and see if it starts up that way. And then I kind of eliminate issues that way. And then usually I'll clean the carburetors if I know it's not going to start, or if it's running poor. I'll pull the carbs off and clean them, and everything goes good from there. So anyways, that's basically it for this video, guys. If you enjoyed, make sure you subscribe, like the video, comment down below what you guys think. And we're going to try to keep getting some more of these snowmobile projects in for you guys. I think I got like 6 or 8 snowmobiles I'm going to try to get very, very cheap, maybe this weekend, if this video goes up this week. So we're going to get a bunch of cheap snowmobiles, and we'll keep the videos coming, try to get some quad content out there for you guys. But hopefully this helps some of you, and as always, we'll see you next time.